If somebody comes to my work with a different opinion, that's okay, because the work is a starting point for a conversation.
The role of artists has always been to reflect the time since the beginning of time.
I have the freedom to say things that are not easy to say and send a message.
Am I growing from my past, or am I just hiding behind it? I hold on to the ghosts of my past. Why do I think this shields me from the present?
And I try to create things that try to connect people, because I want to show people as much as possible that we're not that much different.
If we're not connecting, what are we here for?
The three women I chose to spotlight were Maya Angelou, Angela Davis, and Marsha P. Johnson. For me, I think I just have to sum it up as they're all fighters. Like, I feel like Maya, Angela, Marsha, like they all were going to bat for what they believed in different ways. And I think that was important for all three of them. I wanted to make sure, like, you could not deny them. Like, when you saw them, they were like, oh, they're there, and like, you can't look away. For this series, I specifically worked with like this almost rainbow psychedelic tone, because black, by definition, the actual color, or for what some people think lack thereof, is actually the absorption of every single color in the rainbow. That's how you get black. So I was like, huh, that's kind of cool. So I went ahead and I used every color, because usually my palette is, I have a figure and the figure is blacked out and you only see their eyes and they're looking straight at you. So for this one, still the same thing. The figure is looking at you or maybe looking away, but their skin and everything around them, it's either black or it has every hue in it. Again, to say that like they're kind of everything. They're like everything absorbs in them.
I made that piece in a park with this guy that I had met, and we were just, you know, talking. He had a creative side. He, I believe, worked at like a jewelry company or something like that. He just met me in the park one day, and I had been shooting there a while because I was still experimenting with film and natural light. And at some point, we were like, all right, let's just link up in the park. We'll take some pictures. So we're out there and we're taking the pictures. Most of the props and everything was already there, but it wasn't until we were actually on set and just hanging out that the concept came together. And it was, like I said, it all came from good energy, a good time, and just being in the flow of the moment with the subject. There's a feeling when, like, I make my edits typically, of course, after the shoot, especially with film, you don't have a choice. You have to shoot and pray you got it, right? And so there is a feeling when I'm shooting, especially, it's just like something aligns and it just feels, it's the most like natural feeling of this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be here. It's like an affirmation, and it's very subtle sometimes, and sometimes it just hits you and you got to stop and like, this is too dope, or this is too fun, or, you know, it's a very internal feeling that you get where you're like, I'm doing the right thing as an artist and as a person.
In this piece, I titled May This Mess Be Blessed. And it started, the idea came to me in March 2020 when everyone's world kind of stopped for a minute and some real things happened and there was a lot going on. You had COVID-19, police brutality, Australia was on fire, and I was very overwhelmed. Very bleak, very overwhelmed, didn't know how to process anything, and just kind of said, well, this is a good time to really rethink all my art that I'm doing and make something that's meaningful and represents like what I'm emotionally going through. And I think this piece, the chaos of this piece, helped me sort out the overwhelmed feeling. And a lot of what's focused in this piece is actually derived from my childhood. There's a lot of toys that I once loved, things I've been through in my life, and I wanted to kind of put that into the piece. And then I also wanted people to relate to it and kind of bring up good memories of like, oh, I had that toy and I had a Game Boy, like, man, where did it go now? Where is that thing? And the reality is that everything we once loved and brought us joy as an object are buried. They're underground. And ironically, we bury our loved ones underground. as well. And that's how we mourn, typically. And we're also burying our trash. And so it's this weird connection of things once loved that are no longer here, and so we give it back to the earth. And I wanted people to, you know, engage with the piece. So that's why I wanted to bring items and imagery that's relatable and that brings people back to memories and makes people think about all the things they've like purchased and loved and, you know, used, and where it goes. And it goes back to the ground, kind of metaphorically, like we go into the ground one day.
Rigoberta Menchú, she's a leader, an activist from Guatemala. I feel very connected to her because she was part of my social studies as a kid. She was part of history among Central Americans because she's the best, to me, representation of Mayan culture. She faced a lot of struggle, like torture from her family, seeing her people dying. There's a lot of racism that people kill indigenous, you know, and for the fact that it was the 90s, me facing that, like I always was thinking like killing people for the color of their skin, that was back in the days, you know what I mean? And I experienced as hearing it, it was kind of like hurting in me. So she advocated rights for Mayan people. She actually won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. And I always was admiring her. I say I have to embrace my background and what is the best representation as a female, as indigenous, as an activist, like one of the most powerful women in Latin America that I want here. Like I don't hear much about her, so I wanted to bring it up in here. That also we contribute, beside all this problematic with Black brothers and sisters in here, that also indigenous. So I wanna, like again, that I was telling you that in my art, I wanna teach culture, I wanna teach things that where I'm coming from.
With the piece, Take Others With You, that was a mural that was commissioned by the owner of that residence. And what she wanted me to do was to make something that will kind of speak to the people in the neighborhood and what the neighborhood has been, what the neighborhood is currently going through. And she gave me like full run to do that. So with that piece, I thought about it. I was like, well, there are a lot of people that live here, a lot of people that have done great things when it comes to protesting for this neighborhood to even stay the way that it is. And also there's been a lot of bad things like gentrification that has happened. So with those two things kind of going into each other, I wanted to try to create a statement that had multiple meanings to it, but spoke to all those things. Even just saying the statement, take others with you, depending on your viewpoint, that may just be like a general, like, yeah, as you're going along your journey, have friends with you, build up people as you go. If you're struggling with how gentrification has like messed up a lot of the neighborhoods, like look, then you may start to feel like, maybe he's trying to talk a little bit more about how we need to make sure that we're taking the people that have actually lived with been in the neighborhood with us. I wanted to create a piece that on any given day and on any given individual, it can kind of create its own uplifting message for, or just a message that makes you kind of think like, okay, who do I need to take with me? Who am I taking with me now? I've been raised in a situation where, you know, my mom told me like, you got to be able to talk to anybody about anything, no matter how hard or how much they dislike you, or how much you think that they're not even thinking about you. So I try to create messages that kind of can open the door so we can have an authentic, real conversation about it, you know?
One of the things that people must understand and address is When visually connecting with these communities, you must hire and pay those people of those communities. So the What's Your Service mural is ultimately a passion project. I ultimately connected with Leon Goodrum, Mr. Leon Goodrum, who has been employing the Black community since he moved here in 1984. And I reached out to him and told him that we wanted to do the project, and he said he wanted to see something with John Lewis, who in 2020, we lost John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, and Joseph E. Lowry all in the same year. Pillars, titans of our community globally. Kind of sat at the drawing board and came up with the What's Your Service concept that, especially in the West End community, that's, as with most places, is under so much gentrification. We wanted to make sure, there's a lot of foot traffic there, and we wanted to make sure that those youth, the children, everyone that goes up and down that street sees, in this community I strive, for this community I serve. The feedback, the response, the impact, you know, we brought on Nika King, C-Flux Singh, Sean Foy, and Caleb Brown to help us really execute that mural. Well, the beautiful thing is, one of the days that we were actually working on the mural, C.T. Vivian's eldest daughter approached us and was like, you know, that's my dad and I would love to show my family. And she got her family together and we all spent time out there at the wall and connected with them, and there's no words to put in what that means. The sacrifices that they made, we are to amplify those and never forget that. We are to amplify that in every way, shape, and form, whether it be visually, music. We need to show gratitude to our elders.
Amplify.
I think amplify is probably the best word to personify what we're all experiencing now.
To me, Amplify is about getting information into the world and making sure people hear it and consider it and understand it. Because there are so many details and stories and experiences that are easily overlooked.
To amplify something is to shout it, to give notice, to maybe shine a light on something that has been in the dark. Me being an artist allows me a chance to do that.
I think it connects to, it's basically saying to make louder, to make seen, to demand attention. And that is what I think people of color who are artists, it's what our art is about.
To amplify is just to be who we are, you know what I mean? It's to be an artist. Artists amplify. We amplify emotions, we amplify ideas, we amplify, you know, humanity.
And a lot of times those type issues when the artist is doing them, they're not thinking about how to make a living from this. They're telling a story just to get it out there so it can be amplified.
An ocean is just a multitude of drops. So when you say amplify, I just think of like, maybe by yourself you may not be the loudest in the room, but when you get together with everybody, it literally just radiates and resonates.
It's very easy to be distracted these days. We have distractions dominating our world all day long, and when you amplify something, it's hard to ignore it. Translate the things that you feel like you can't do anything about and use your gift and use it to make it better.
Because amplify doesn't mean acknowledge in a sense to where like you're building up something that wasn't there. Amplify totally just means like, no, that they're already making noise. We're just turning it up. We're just literally plugging an amp into it and turning it up to 11 because more people need to hear it and more people need to see what has already been taking place.
It's raising awareness and support for the unsung. To be so visually impactful that you have no choice but to hear us.
Think that amplifying who we are and being able to go for what we want and what we love and fight for our vision, all of us artists amplifying our stories gives more stories for people to relate to, and hopefully will inspire more people to go out there and try new things and push themselves.
The role of the artist is to translate the longings of the hearts of the people. But who are the people? And how is it that the artist can possibly know the depths and desires of their hearts? I believe their ability to do so is a product of their proximity to the community itself. It is their conscious and intentional acts to narrow the distance between themselves and those with whom they struggle for justice. It is in their ability to know and to feel those struggles. It is in their ability to hear and to listen to not only the loudest, but the voices that often go unheard. For the artists committed to social justice, their task is to take the most silenced voices among them and lift those voices up so that they can be collectively heard through the trumpet of conscience.